You might be wondering why you are spotting on your period, so let's talk about it. Okay, first, before we get started into why you may be spotting, let's quickly go over the menstrual phase, because I'm going to be throwing some terms I just want to make sure that you understand. So when I say follicular phase, I mean day 1 of bleed to ovulation. Ovulation is like a short little intermediate phase. That's the middle of your cycle typically. And then the luteal phase is like the day after ovulation to the day before you start your bleed again. So I like to say that there's 3: follicular, ovulation, and a luteal. Some people like to separate the bleed by its own little phase, but I just kind of combine that into the follicular phase. And I'll always say bleed and cycle. When I say cycle, I mean total cycle from day 1 of your period to day 29 or 30, however long your cycle is. And then the bleed is just the actual bleeding. So I know people will say, oh, my cycle, and they mean their bleed. So I always like to clear up what I mean. So when we talk about these topics, because there's going to be more hormonal videos coming up, that you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm actually probably going to do a whole separate video, maybe going into a little bit deeper, because I like to nerd out on that stuff and help you understand your body. Okay, so first off, that follicular phase spotting. This is not as common, and you definitely want to get in contact with your gynecologist and understand if you have any issues like a polyp or endometriosis. Being on birth control can sometimes cause it in the follicular phase. That's not as common from what we see. So make sure that you chat with your gyno and do any testing and exams that you may need to do to figure that out. Now, sometimes women will get spotting when they're ovulating, and that simply is because of the LH that is surging right before you ovulate, and sometimes that can trigger a little bit of bleeding, usually very harmless. Again, anytime you have spotting, you'll want to check with your gyno. So this video is for educational purposes only. I know me, everything that I know, whether it's in the phase, I'm like, let me just check it out just in case. So you can never go wrong with chatting with your doctor and making sure it's okay. But ovulation spotting can occur just because of that LH surge. Now, luteal phase. This is the most common times that I see people say, I have spotting. Now, if you start spotting like a week before your period's about to start, you may have implantation bleeding if you've had unprotected sex. And it feels like you're actually about to start your cycle because it's middle bleed. It's not like crazy light, but it's definitely not full-blown period. But it's like, oh, I guess I'm starting my period early. I had it with my daughter. I did not have it with my son, but when I was pregnant with my daughter, I definitely had it, and I was like, I'm totally starting my period. And then my period never came. It spotted for a little bit, and then it never came. And I'm like, that was weird. And lo and behold, take a pregnancy test. I'm like, okay, implantational bleeding. So that could be a reason. Usually if you are having spotting though in your luteal phase, that can show that you have lower progesterone. And again, we want to understand why. Why do you have low progesterone? Usually if you have low progesterone, it's like, did you even ovulate? Because you need to ovulate to make progesterone. And just wanting to understand exactly what that means for you, and also chat with your doctor. Now, it's okay if you have a little bit of spotting before you actually start your cycle, because sometimes right before you start your cycle, you might be shedding just some leftover blood from your last cycle. So if it's right before you start like bleeding, that can sometimes be normal for women. So make sure you chat with your doctor. These are the most common reasons that we see. And if it is something about low progesterone, let's make sure we understand. Not that I'm opposed for your doctor to put you on bioidentical progesterone, all that. That is you and your doctor's decision, but I encourage you to not stop there. Why? Why do we have low progesterone? That is the answer we want to have. We just want to make sure that we're putting a band-aid on it and giving progesterone. Yes, it can help alleviate symptoms and make you feel better, but are we getting to the root cause? That is what got me into like functional nutrition, is because when we start really peeling back the layers, a lot of the foundational things that we do, whether it's diet and stress and environment and movement and sleep, these are so foundational, and they often impact the way our sex hormones are responding. And if our body is in fight or flight, if it's not feeling safe, if we're under eating, we're not going to make the sex hormones that we need to make. So if you need us, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Our link is in the bio. We share all of our packages and pricing over there, and you can schedule a free 15-minute call with our team so we can understand exactly what's going on and how we can support you.